Now, October is National Physical Therapy Month. Not only a good month to recognize the profession and its benefits, but also a time to raise awareness of what physical therapy might help you accomplish. Joining me now, clinical educator and physical therapist, Scott Rivera. We've been having a nice conversation even before you guys all came to us. Good to see you, Scott.
Yeah.
A pleasure to meet you. Yeah, glad to have you here. I was talking about my experience after getting my hip replaced, going through physical therapy. That was kind of a no-brainer, but I know that led me into the first question I wanted to ask you. How can people out there sort of decide if they've had an injury, whether physical therapy would be right for them?
The biggest thing, and the word that kind of is our profession, is function, right? So what can't you do that you want to be able to do? Or if you have an injury, are you back to where you want to be? So what your goals are going to drive whether or not physical therapy is right for you, and can we help you achieve those goals?
Yeah.
So if you want to get there and you feel like you can't do it on your own, that's when you need somebody else like physical therapy.
Can it also, is it just about regaining what you lost, or can physical therapy even get you bigger and better, like the $6 million man like you were before?
Yeah, we do. We love that. There's absolutely a performance piece of that and a performance aspect where we have kind of this expertise about the body. So if you are getting the recovery and you want to kind of raise that bar a little bit, we have the knowledge and the know-how to get you there.
Okay, so if people decide, yes, I want to do it, what is usually the next step? Do they have to go to their doctor? Do they have to go to their orthopedist? Does it vary by practice?
So it varies a little bit. In the state of Connecticut, we have direct access. So you can go right to your physical therapist and say, I have this injury. Part of our training now that we have doctorates in physical therapy is that we're trained to recognize if there's something that you should see a medical professional before continuing to treat with physical therapy, or is this something that we can continue on with? So you can come with direct access in the state,
Yeah, I know. With my physical therapist, I liked how they were trying to be as objective as they could in terms of my recovery, in terms of range of motion. They would do a lot of that too. And so it's always very evidence-based too, with a lot of the modalities, the treatment modalities. And you're telling me about some of that, even some that have sort of questioned for lack of better words, I don't want to say dogma, but things that you thought were true for many, many years, especially with regards to like swelling and what you do with that.
Yeah, so research is huge. It's advancing for a lot of reasons. There's great academic physical therapy. The insurance companies are also kind of making us prove, what we're doing and why we're doing it. So there's lots of research out there. The old adage, as far as injuries are concerned, of RICE, which is rest, ice, compress, elevate, has been out there for a while, and it's not bad, but the new science and advancements in research show us that our body's natural healing process is driven by swelling, and what that does is create an avenue for our body to deliver blood flow, oxygen, and all these chemicals that help us to heal to the area. So by using ice and anti-inflammatories, that interrupts that process, and it can kind of limit our recovery down the road. So we have a new acronym. It's called Peace and Love. It's kind of deep, and it takes us from the immediate phase all the way through return to sport. But yeah, so you could, we won't get into it. We'll Google it. But yeah, it's really great that the research has driven us that way.
Let it swell, which makes sense when you think about it that way. Almost out of time, I wanted to ask, virtual physical therapy. I know a lot of things have gone online since the pandemic. Physical therapy is one of them, right?
Yeah. So much of what we can do is driven by kind of our knowledge. And even when people come into the clinic, a lot of what we're saying is, this is only going to get better if you can do this at home. I'm sure you've heard that as well. 2 hours a week, maybe not what you need, but 7 days a week of doing it. So virtual PT, we're putting the onus on you, but we still have lots of research that we can do an effective evaluation and treatments virtually. So it's a great, great option for accessibility. Helps a lot of people access PT who might not be able to otherwise.
And that's usually the first and the biggest hurdle, just getting people started, getting them in the door. Well, you don't have to get in the door anymore. You can do it virtually to whatever degree you can. Thank you so much. I know we covered a lot in the short time we have, Scott. A pleasure.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate
Pleasure to meet you. Yeah, we do appreciate you coming up from Monroe and taking the time.